My husband became a vegetable after a car accident, and my mother-in-law would rather let him die than spend money to save him. Heartbroken for my husband, I borrowed money from all my maternal relatives, exhausted all my assets, and even took out high-interest loans to get him treated, and finally managed to save his life. The first thing he did after waking up was to ask for a divorce, saying that since he had already died once, he didn't want to suppress himself anymore and wanted to pursue true love. Only then did I find out that the reason for the car accident was that he was buying a Valentine's Day gift to please his mistress. If I could do it all over again, I called my mother-in-law, and she said, "I have no money, he's your husband. If he dies, you'll be a widow. Just stay faithful to his memory." Holding the phone mid-call, I said to the doctor, "We're out of money, remove the breathing tube. We've discussed it and decided not to continue treatment. Are you Yang Wei's family? This is Jiangyi Hospital. He's been in a serious car accident and is currently undergoing emergency treatment here. Please come to the hospital immediately. A family member needs to sign for the rescue procedures." When I opened my eyes again, time had rewound to the day my husband had the car accident. The very moment I received the call from the hospital, in my previous life, the hospital called me. And I rushed there without even having time to tie my shoelaces. After 2 days of emergency treatment following the car accident, the doctors declared brain death. Continuing the rescue efforts would mean facing enormous medical expenses. The best possible outcome would be becoming a vegetable, maintaining vital signs, and waiting for a miracle to happen. In such a situation, no one could stand by and watch their loved one die right in front of them and choose to do nothing. I didn't hesitate to choose to continue the rescue efforts, and I used all the money I had to save him. Obviously, the little money I had was like a drop in the bucket. Yang Wei is a mama's boy. The house we live in is under his mother's name, and he gives most of his monthly income to her. I begged his mother to use the money to save him. After all, there are numerous cases of people waking up from a vegetative state. Money is never more important than a person. I never expected the outcome. My mother-in-law actually said, "Where would an old person like me get money? He's your husband, not mine. If you want to save him, you save him. I have no money to give, only my life to offer." I never imagined she would say something like that. They always say there are no bad parents in the world. What's more, Yang Wei is such a mama's boy. He listens to her in everything. How could she bear to let him die? I thought she was just saying it, as it turned out. My mother-in-law truly meant what she said about not getting involved. She simply pretended to be sick, staying at home every day stewing pigeons to recuperate, not even bothering to go to the hospital. My heart sank at that moment. I felt it was so unfair to Yang Wei. His own mother, whom he loved the most, would rather let him die than part with her money to save him. At the time, I had no idea he was keeping a mistress outside. Nor did I know that the car accident happened while he was on his way to buy a Chishi festival gift for her. So, seeing that my mother-in-law only cared about the money and not whether he lived or died, I was overwhelmed with sorrow. I grieved for a long time, and then I exhausted all my savings to save him. When I didn't have enough money, I swallowed my pride and borrowed from my parents and relatives on my side of the family, and I even took out high-interest loans. After all, in the face of life and death, everything else is trivial. I'll borrow first, and when he wakes up, he can go get the money he left with his mother. If it's still not enough, we'll work together to earn and pay it back. I believe that as long as we're still alive, we can always earn the money back. I go to the hospital every day on time to bring him nutritious rice porridge, massage his body according to the doctor's advice, and chat with him, hoping he will wake up soon. My efforts paid off. After taking care of him for half a year, Yang Wei miraculously woke up, and I was overjoyed. But the first thing he did after waking up was to ask for a divorce. I felt as if struck by lightning and was completely stunned, thinking he must have been confused after just waking up. In the end, he said that after experiencing a life-and-death situation, he realized that life is short and he no longer wanted to suppress his feelings or live a lukewarm life with me. He wanted to bravely pursue true love. I never expected that giving my all to save him would become what he described as a lukewarm life. I couldn't accept this sudden blow, but I still held on to hope for him. comforting myself by thinking he was just recovering from a serious illness and his harsh words were due to a bad mood, but I never imagined that he would start becoming violent toward me. After slapping me once, the domestic abuse became endless. And he even brazenly brought his mistress into our home. It finally dawned on me that he had been involved with the other woman for a long time. The car accident happened because the other woman was angry that he hadn't decisively filed for divorce. He was driving while trying to console her and buy her gifts, got distracted, and crashed into a truck. Unable to bear the humiliation, I agreed to the divorce. During the divorce, he promised to repay the money I had borrowed to save his life. But after the divorce, he suddenly turned hostile, saying the money was borrowed by me, so of course I should repay it myself. He even said he never asked me to save him, so why should he have to pay it back? Why should he have to repay so much debt? I borrowed all that money without his consent. It wasn't until that moment that I realized he had tampered with the divorce agreement, taking advantage of how emotionally distraught and desperate I was to get a divorce because of his affair. I overlooked the details when reviewing the agreement. He set several traps for me, and I just walked right into them. I never imagined that a person could be so shameless, especially towards his wife who once saved his life. Such a huge debt that saved his life was suddenly thrust upon my shoulders. And Yong Wei is such a mama's boy. The house we lived in was under his mother's name, and the majority of his monthly salary went to her. After the divorce, I didn't get a single cent. And I simply couldn't afford to repay the debt I was burdened with. Relatives, however, immediately came to demand money as soon as they found out I had gotten divorced. Some of the money was even borrowed with the help of my parents, and those relatives kept pestering my mom and dad relentlessly. Every day, a crowd of people would come to our house, causing a scene and demanding repayment. My mother has a heart condition and was hospitalized several times due to the stress. My father, unable to hold his head up in front of the relatives, became extremely irritable. Once, unable to contain my anger, I impulsively grabbed a knife and went to attack Yong Wei. I didn't manage to hurt him, but instead, I was arrested by the police and detained for 15 days. Our family was torn apart and thrown into complete chaos. I was powerless to change the situation, crying every day, suffering from severe depression. Less than a year after the divorce, I jumped from a building and ended my life. Meanwhile, Yong Wei, who suffered from infertility, married his pregnant mistress and they had a lovely son together. My mother-in-law was overjoyed, and the whole family stepped on the soaked in my blood, living happily together. Perhaps their actions were too excessive, and even heaven couldn't stand it anymore, giving me a chance to be reborn. So when I received the call, I didn't rush to the hospital immediately. Instead, I gave the doctor my mother-in-law's phone number. I cried and said I was out of town and on my way to the hospital, asking my mother-in-law to go first and sign the papers. I won't pay a single penny for this in my entire life. After hanging up the hospital's call, I immediately called my mother-in-law. She cried and scolded me. "Your husband is in a car accident and is being resuscitated, and you're still away on a business trip. I'll go sign first so the doctors can start treatment right away. You hurry back and pay. I don't have any money on me." You could tell my mother-in-law was very nervous, and there was even the sound of a table falling over. She was worried about her son's life, but she was just counting on me to be the sucker and pay the money. In my previous life, because I was in a hurry to get to the hospital right away, I didn't notice these details. "Mom, you pay first, and I'll have Yong Wei give you the money later. All my bank cards are with Yong Wei, and I don't have any money on me," she cried, and I cried too. It's just crying. Who doesn't know how? If she wants me to pay, no way. I searched high and low, gathering all the bank cards from home and putting them in my bag for safekeeping. Then, in tears, I went to the police and traffic police, retrieved the dashcam footage of Yong Wei's car accident, made a copy, and then used my ID to get Yong Wei's damaged phone back from the police. I took it to a phone repair shop before rushing to the hospital with red eyes. He had already been in emergency treatment for over 3 hours. I wasn't there, and my mother-in-law had already paid 1 round of fees. He had been sent to the ICU, and my mother-in-law was still waiting at the door. As soon as she saw me, she slapped me across the face and said, "Your husband is in trouble, and you show up so late. What kind of wife are you? Let me tell you, if anything happens to a Y, I won't let you off. After a lifetime, I've grown accustomed to her habit of casually blaming me. I didn't say anything and just let her scold me. Arguing back would only make her more excited. Compared to the domestic violence in my previous life, this slap was nothing. Seeing that I didn't argue back, my mother-in-law breathed a sigh of relief and said with a stern face, "You stay here and take care of our Wei. I'm going home first. I just paid 10,000 yuan, which should be enough for today. When our Wei wakes up, remember to return the 10,000 yuan to me." Mom, our Wei's life is hanging by a thread right now. How can you still be thinking about him paying you back? My mind is a complete mess right now. Our Wei keeps his own money, and I don't even know where he put it. I admit I did it on purpose. I deliberately cried and complained so loudly, so that the doctors and nurses in the hospital could hear, letting everyone know that it was his mother who was clinging to the money and unwilling to save him, not me. Gossip and cyberbullying. I had enough of that in my last life. I don't want to go through it again in this one. Over the years, our Wei's salary has basically been handed over to you, while my salary has been used for our small family's expenses. So, Mom, how about you return our Wei's salary to him to cover his medical bills? And I'll use my salary to take care of him. Our Wei's condition is so serious this time. He definitely needs proper nourishment and won't recover without several months of rest. I'll personally take care of him then. His money can go toward treatment, and my money will cover our daily expenses. Mom, what do you think? Relatives of patients had gathered at the hospital entrance. These people loved nothing more than drama. As soon as they heard what I said, everyone turned to look at my mother-in-law. Some even started muttering, "In this day and age, even after the son is married, he still has to hand over his money. How is this child supposed to get by? This poor girl, she even has to support her husband after getting married. No wonder girls nowadays don't want to get married." The mother-in-law was so angry that smoke was practically coming out of her head. What do you all know? I raised my son since he was little, and now that he's grown up, what's wrong with him giving his salary to his mother to manage? This is called knowing how to be grateful. What are you all blabbering about? The mother-in-law grumbled, saying they were all jealous of her son's filial piety because they couldn't give birth to sons themselves, then stormed off with a dark expression. She was absolutely certain that as long as I was around, I would definitely save her son. I didn't talk back either, just stood there quietly. Anyway, since he's staying in the ICU, family members aren't allowed to accompany patients inside. They won't declare brain death and confirm the vegetative state until tomorrow. The doctor comforted me with a few words, telling me to go back and rest first. They said they'd call the family if anything happened, and just to keep my phone available at all times. After leaving the hospital, I took my husband's phone and compiled all the call records between him and his mistress. As for this affair partner, I actually know her. It's his colleague Su Fang. From the explicit chat records between the two, it appears that Su Fang was already 1 month pregnant at this point. I still have her on WeChat. In my previous life, when Yong Wei was hospitalized, she even visited him in the hospital on behalf of the company. Like a fool, I thought this colleague was reliable. She still doesn't know that I'm aware of their affair, treating me like a fool to save the father of her child. I quickly took a photo of Yong Wei, covered in tubes from the ICU yesterday, and posted it on my Moments with the caption, "Don't worry, I'll convince my mother-in-law to use your money to save you. You will definitely recover. Hang in there, honey." The post was only visible to Su Fang and my mother-in-law. I wanted them to see my determination to save Yong Wei, so they would continue to refuse to pay. The next day, I went to the hospital early and waited. I arrived even before the hospital called me, because I knew that guy was about to suffer brain death. Sure enough, not long after I arrived, the ICU doctor on duty rushed out in a hurry. The situation was critical. He needed immediate surgery to save his life, and there was no guarantee he would make it, just like what happened in my previous life. The doctor spoke with me privately. I cried and said, "No matter what, we have to save him. Could you give me a few hours to come up with the money? My husband's money is all with my mother-in-law. I'll discuss it with her, and as soon as she sends the money, we'll pay the emergency fees right away." After saying that, I called my mother-in-law right in front of them, but she hung up on me directly. Then I used the hospital's landline to call my mother-in-law again, and she answered immediately. Before I could even speak, her anxious voice came through from the other end of the line. "Doctor, how is my son doing now? He's going to be okay, right? Our Wei is already brain dead. The hospital is asking for the family's opinion. If you want to proceed with resuscitation, you need to pay the emergency fees immediately. Mom, please bring young Lin's money to the hospital to save him," I interrupted her, sobbing uncontrollably. I was standing at the hospital's nurse station while making the call, surrounded by a group of doctors and nurses, as well as patients passing by. A few of them had already discreetly started recording videos with their phones. When my mother-in-law on the other end of the phone heard that I was at the hospital, she visibly breathed a sigh of relief. She knows me too well and was sure that I wouldn't abandon Yang Lin in such a situation. And indeed, that was the case. In my past life, I was trapped in this very way, ultimately pushing myself to the brink, just as expected. "Yushin, what do you mean by that? You're still so young, and you already want to rely on your parents. Yong Wei is your husband, not mine. It's you, his wife, who should be selling off everything and borrowing money to save him, not me, an elderly person with no ability to work. If you don't have money, go borrow some. You're still young. Are you afraid you won't be able to pay it back?" As soon as I asked her to send money, she blew up and started acting like a shrew. Although I couldn't put the call on speaker, if it comes to a lawsuit, all the call recordings can be retrieved as evidence. I've suffered enough in my past life. It's their turn now. "Mom, are you saying that you won't use the money Awei left with you to pay for his treatment? Where would an old person like me get money? Let me tell you, I have no money to give, but I do have my life. If anything happens to Awei, I'll die with him. You can just wait to become a widow and mourn him." Widow? When he dies, I'll find myself 8 or 10 boyfriends, turning his grave into a lush green prairie. As for staying a widow, he can keep dreaming. "All right, I understand," rubbing my reddened eyes. I kept the call connected and sobbed as I cried out to the doctor. "Doctor, my mother-in-law said we don't have the money anymore, so we've decided not to continue the rescue efforts. We've agreed. Just remove the breathing tube. To send him off properly, I requested permission from the doctor to personally go into the ICU and remove the breathing tube, accompanying him on his final journey. 2. Sign here." When the doctor pushed the signing form in front of me, I hung up the phone and quickly signed my name, agreeing to discontinue treatment. I followed the doctor into the ICU and personally removed, one by one, the tubes inserted into Yang Wei's body. I coldly watched the numbers on Yang Wei's heart monitor drop to 0. The thrill of revenge drowned out the fears of my past life. From then on, there were no more demons in this world. I knew my mother-in-law was rushing to the hospital, but it was too late. I even deliberately took a photo of Yong Wei with the tube removed and sent it to her on WeChat. "You wouldn't give up the money, and now your son is driven to death. Are you satisfied now? Holding on to his money and refusing to save him. Even as a ghost, he will never forgive you." After sending the message, the entire process was complete. I sat slumped quietly outside the ICU, listening as the doctor declared Yong Wei dead and covered him with a white sheet. "Who told you to pull out the tube?" Just as they were taking the body to the morgue, the mother-in-law rushed over in a rage. Unfortunately, she was a step too late. The moment she saw the body, the mother-in-law's face turned deathly pale. She was completely stunned. Her legs gave way, and she collapsed to the ground. She stood there in a daze for a full 3 minutes before throwing herself onto the dead Yong Wei, clutching him and breaking down into loud, heart-wrenching sobs. "My son, how could you die? How could you leave your mother all alone in this world?" After crying, she suddenly rushed over to hit me with a fierce expression. I dodged with a quick sidestep. "Yushin, you actually gave up on resuscitating my son. This is murder. Now that he's dead, you owe me my son. You owe me." My mother-in-law was acting like a shrew, making a scene and causing a commotion. "Was it me who gave up? Mom, wasn't it you who gave up? I called you right in front of the doctors and nurses. When I called, dozens of people were watching. Clearly, you were the one who gave up. You said you had no money and only your life to offer. that if Yong Wei died, you would die with him. Leaving me a widow to mourn alone, it was you who held on to the money and refused to save him, causing his death and making me a widow. Why don't you go die with him? Give me back my husband. Give me back my husband. What a joke. I made call after call and even sent her a WeChat message. Waiting for this exact moment. Isn't it just throwing a tantrum? If she throws a tantrum, I'll throw one too. Fight magic with magic. In my past life, I was just too concerned with saving face. Which is why I let their family walk all over me. Crying, I took out my phone and played the WeChat messages I had sent to my mother-in-law complaining about her refusal to save my husband, along with the call recordings, for all the surrounding patients' families, doctors, and nurses to hear. Mom, are you satisfied now? I cried until I was hoarse, tears streaming down my face, and my mother-in-law's face turned even paler. She thought she could control me. Convinced that even if she didn't contribute a single cent, I would still do everything in my power to save Yong Wei. In my previous life, she was the one who kept urging me to borrow money from my maternal relatives, saying she had already tried all the relatives on the Yang family's side and no one would lend to her. In this life, even when we argue, she never forgets to remind me to sell everything we have and borrow from my maternal family. She schemed and calculated everything, but she never expected that I would suddenly change the game. You. The mother-in-law couldn't utter a single word for a long time, and it took her a while to catch her breath. Mom, all the money Yong Wei has earned over the years is with you. Now that he's in trouble, you won't give a single cent. If Yong Wei finds out, he won't let you off even as a ghost. You killed my husband, and I will never let this go in this lifetime. After saying that, there was no time to waste. I still have many things to handle. For instance, there are still some assets between Yong Wei and me, as well as compensation from the insurance company, and even the money Yong Wei spent on his mistress. All of these need to be carefully sorted out. I made an appointment with a lawyer and left directly. Of course, I wouldn't bother with Yong Wei's funeral arrangements either. Mourning for that kind of man would only make me feel disgusted with myself. After returning home, I had the renovation company remove all the previous furniture and even demolished all the fixed renovations that couldn't be taken away. The house isn't mine, but all the renovations inside were paid for by my parents. Why should anyone else benefit from them? After I finished, I went back to my parents' home. My parents didn't understand why I was acting this way. Logically, since Yong Wei had died, I should be grieving. But I seemed completely unaffected and was actually quite happy. I couldn't explain much more. So I directly said that Yong Wei had cheated and that he had gotten into the accident while buying a gift for his mistress. I didn't say anything else, just asked them to trust me, as I'm not an ungrateful person. As soon as my parents heard that Yong Wei had cheated, they were so angry they wanted to seek justice and supported me without hesitation. Even in the previous life, when the Yang family and relatives pushed me to the brink of despair, they never once scolded me. Yong Wei was only one of the culprits. There were also my mother-in-law and the other woman. I won't let a single one of them get away. The next day, my mother-in-law went crazy and kept calling me non-stop. It was only after dozens of calls that I leisurely picked up the phone. You Shin. You bitch, are you dead? Why aren't you answering the phone? A sharp, piercing scream came from the other end of the phone, her mother-in-law's voice. It's your son who's dead, and you're the one who caused it. Have you forgotten so quickly? You. Her mother-in-law was so furious she could spit blood. Where are all the things from the house? Why is the house smashed up? Did you do this? That was mine and Yong Wei's home, now that Yong Wei is dead because of you. Why would I leave anything behind to benefit you, the murderer? How I choose to deal with it is my freedom. The house is under my name, so it's my home. What does it have to do with you? You need to understand that I was the one who let you live there out of charity before. How dare you damage my home? Mother Wang spoke with righteous indignation. I was so angry that I laughed. It's true that the house was fully paid for by my mother-in-law, but at least half of that money came from the wages Yong Wei handed over to her during the time we were dating. Of course, Yong Wei and I never got married, so his money has nothing to do with me. However, because my mother-in-law bought this house, she claimed she had no money left and refused to provide a bride price. I am the only daughter of my parents, and they have always doted on me since I was little. They didn't want any unpleasantness over the bride price. So not only did they agree not to ask for one, but they also offered to help us with the renovation costs. At that time, my mother-in-law repeatedly assured us that this house was meant for me and Yongwei. She said she was just the name on the property deed, but the right to use it was entirely ours. We could live in it, rent it out, or even sell it as we wished. It's also my fault for being naive back then and being so devoted to Yongwei. I fell right into the trap set by that unscrupulous mother and son. I took a deep breath and tried hard to control my emotions. Getting angry over such a person and ending up like this is not worth it. I don't even care about the house. You can keep living in it until you die, I said coldly. Given my mother-in-law's temperament, there's no way I could get even a fraction of this house, so I don't want to waste time fighting over it, holding on to those cold, lifeless assets with no one to care for you in old age and no one to inherit them is the greatest tragedy in life. You're cursing me, my mother-in-law asked me agitatedly. I ignored her and continued, but the renovation of the house was paid for by my family, and all the appliances and furniture inside were bought by my family. Shouldn't I take them when I move out? You Shin, you wretched woman, have you no conscience? I paid for the house so you could live in it. And now that something has happened to my son, you turn your back on us. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? I'm not afraid. After all, it's not me who would be struck by lightning. Someone has already faced retribution, haven't they? I retorted sarcastically. What did you say? Are you cursing my son's death as retribution? Shouldn't you know very well, it was you who caused his death. I'm telling you, you Shin, since my son is dead. Don't think you'll have it easy either. The mother-in-law abruptly hung up the phone. I looked at my phone and let out a cold laugh. Who's afraid of who? I'm still afraid of you. Don't push your luck. That afternoon, my dad and my mom were sitting in the living room watching TV when their expressions suddenly changed. They enjoy watching the mediation segment on our local channel called Sister Fan Helps Out, which is undoubtedly all about domestic disputes. Shin, come here quickly. My mom called out to me nervously. I was also in the living room, sending a message to the insurance company on my phone, inquiring about the compensation for Yongwei's car accident. Since Yongwei was primarily at fault, the compensation wouldn't be very high. Hearing my mom's voice at that moment, I looked up and immediately saw my mother-in-law on the TV screen. She is being interviewed by a journalist. The news caption was still displayed in the lower left corner of the screen, stating that after the son's car accident, the daughter-in-law not only failed to rescue him but also destroyed the home. My son was in a car accident the day before yesterday. My daughter-in-law was afraid of spending money and directly gave up on saving him, causing my son to die in the hospital. Now, she's completely ignoring my son's funeral. I truly have no other choice, which is why I've come to you for help. The mother-in-law spoke while crying, presenting herself as a pitiful old lady, which indeed evoked sympathy. Why didn't she come? Is it because of guilt and self-blame? Sister Fan asked. No, the mother-in-law said tearfully. As soon as my son had an accident, she wanted the house. I worked my whole life and used my life savings to buy it for them in full. The house is under my name. Because I didn't agree to give it to her, she immediately turned her back on us, moved all the furniture and appliances out of the house, and even vandalized it. The more the mother-in-law spoke, the more heartbroken she became, and she burst into loud sobs. Sister Fan comforted her for a few moments and then asked, "What is it that you want us to help you with today?" I hope to have my daughter-in-law handle my son's funeral and restore the home's renovation, returning the furniture and appliances to me. All right, let's contact your daughter-in-law first. As Aunt Fan spoke, she took out her phone, and shortly after, my phone rang. At the same time, my parents' phones also started ringing simultaneously. My parents each answered the phone. My mom, "That's not how it happened. How could our Shinshin do such a thing? This is slander." My dad, "Don't you know what kind of person Shinshin is? You know exactly what you've done, if you keep making trouble like this. Don't blame me for not showing respect to the deceased and embarrassing you in front of the entire nation." My dad was absolutely furious. But his personal integrity prevented him from tearing into a deceased person in front of the media, obviously. My mother-in-law's action has already created a social impact. It goes without saying that my reputation is completely ruined now. I felt a wave of irony inside, in my previous life, because of the debt. The Yang family ruined my reputation and destroyed my family. In this life, Yong Wei is already dead, and you still want to cyberbully me, to make me repeat the same mistakes. It's hilarious. She really thinks I have no preparation at all. Next. It's time for her to truly understand what it means that evil will be repaid with evil. So, after the program team made 2 phone calls, I answered, Hello Yusin. We are from the Aunt Fan Help program, your mother-in-law. I saw the live broadcast on TV. I'm heading to Yang Wei's Memorial Hall right now. With that, I hung up the phone directly, making trouble. Who doesn't know how to do that? I put down my phone, went to the room to pack my things, and then prepared to go out. Don't worry, I can handle it, I reassured them. I'll go with you. What if you get taken advantage of going alone? My father simply couldn't feel at ease with me going by myself. The program crew will be there too. I won't be at a disadvantage. Just wait in front of the TV and watch the news. I didn't want them to worry about me like they did in my previous life. I opened the door to my home. Several neighbors were blocking the doorway. When they saw me come out, they quickly walked away. As they moved away, several neighbors were still blocking the doorway. When they saw me come out, they quickly walked away. As they walked away, a few gossipy old women muttered a few words. That's the wicked daughter-in-law, no dowry. I heard this family is educated, so how did they end up with such an ill-mannered person? This is what they call a refined scoundrel. I was furious. My parents are just too reasonable, which is why the shameless young family has them completely under their thumb. I'm not wasting time arguing now anyway. The truth will come out soon enough. I took a taxi and arrived at my destination. There were quite a few people in the morning hall. Probably hearing that a TV program crew was coming. Besides relatives and friends, there were also many onlookers. As soon as I walked in, the entire hall erupted. Yu Xin, you actually had the nerve to come. If it weren't for you, Yong Wei wouldn't have died. If it weren't for mother-in-law finding you through the program crew, would you have been so heartless as to not even see Yong Wei off on his final journey? Yong Wei and his mother have been so good to you. You've been married to Yong Wei for over 3 years without having a child, and he never once looked down on you. How dare you turn your back and show no gratitude? All of Yang's relatives were chattering away, scolding me. In truth, the Yang family and their relatives weren't particularly close. Yang's father had passed away early, and his mother had a strange temper and a scheming mind. She never took care of her own parents-in-law, and the Yang family couldn't stand her. Today, probably because the production crew was present and out of respect for the deceased, everyone wanted to take the opportunity to show off their so-called sympathy and sense of justice. Some were even there to see Yang's mother get her comeuppance. After all, she herself doesn't support her in-laws. And now her daughter-in-law is also opposing her. Like mother, like daughter, it's instant karma. I glanced at Yang Wei's coffin and then saw his mistress, his colleague Su Fang, who gave me a vicious look before quickly lowering her head. Currently, no one knows about her and Yang Wei's illicit relationship, which must be kept secret. She attended the funeral under the guise of being a company colleague. I can never forget how, in my previous life, she stood arrogantly in our home, calling me a hen that doesn't lay eggs and accusing me of occupying a position without contributing. I have been married to Yong Wei for 3 years, and we truly don't have children. But it's not because of me, it's due to Yong Wei's oligospermia, which makes it very difficult to conceive. The doctor suggested IVF, but the cost is high, and my mother-in-law is unwilling. Moreover, she heard from somewhere that children conceived through IVF are not as good, and besides, the doctor said it's very difficult, not impossible, so my mother-in-law suggested we try to conceive naturally first and wait until we're older to consider other options. Later, someone did get pregnant. But it wasn't me, it was Su Fang. I still remember clearly that after Su Fang got pregnant, my mother-in-law's arrogant attitude, saying her son had no issues, it was just that some fields weren't fertile. The more I think about it, the more ironic it becomes. Slap. I slapped her right in front of everyone. Su Fang was stunned by my slap. At this moment in the morning hall, many of Yang Wei's colleagues were also shocked by my actions. Why did you hit her? My mother-in-law stood in front of Su Fang and asked me angrily. Yang Wei is a mama's boy who tells his mother everything. So his mother must have known long ago that he had other women outside. She even supported it, saying it's normal for a man to have women outside, and if he could even get a woman pregnant, that would be a great ability for a man. So what if I hit her? I sneered coldly. Do I need to pick a special day to beat up a mistress? What nonsense are you talking? My mother-in-law was unusually agitated. My son is already dead, and you're still slandering him like this. Yu Xin, has your conscience been eaten by dogs? Who says I'm slandering him? He was my husband, and he loved me very much. It was this seductress who seduced him and caused his death. I pulled the mother-in-law blocking Su Fang aside and pointed a trembling finger at her, looking utterly heartbroken. I knew all too well that tearing into a deceased person at a funeral would do me no good. In Chinese culture, the deceased is held in the highest regard, a principle as unshakable as the belief that filial piety is the foremost of all virtues. So, to turn the situation around, I, already notorious, had no choice but to target the other woman. Not only would I go after her, but I also had to portray myself as a naive, love-struck fool. This would make the audience frustrated with my lack of resolve, and the more they felt that way, the more they would dig into our story. A man's affair is something that can't withstand scrutiny, especially when the mistress is already pregnant. It's all because of this mistress who seduced my husband. I checked the car's dashcam footage. It was her asking my husband for gifts. It was because she threw a tantrum while my husband was driving that he got distracted and caused the accident. You're the one who killed my husband. As I spoke, I started clinging to Yang Wei's coffin, wailing loudly, "Husband, how can my life be so bitter? I've become a widow at such a young age. The mistress caused you to have the accident, and your mother took your salary but didn't save you. When I see them, I wish I could skin them and drink their blood." After saying that, I seemed to go crazy again, pulled out my phone, brought it close to the camera, and scrolled through the WeChat chat history between my mother-in-law and me for the camera to see. Without a doubt, it's clear how explosive this record will be and the huge reaction it will cause. After pulling up the chat history, I also placed the video from the car's dashcam, which I had exported to my phone, in front of the camera. Crying my heart out, I said, "Look, it's this mistress who killed him. She clearly knew he was about to drive, yet she still threw a tantrum, causing him to get into a car accident. You, this mistress, are a murderer. I'm going to sue you in court and make you pay with your life." Paying with her life is impossible, but stripping her of everything is very real. My husband was so good to you, buying you gifts and getting into a car accident. Over the years, he must have given you plenty of money. When he needed emergency care after the accident, you actually refused to use the money to save him, just stood by and watched him die. You, this murderer, still have the nerve to come to his funeral. What? Hearing that Yang Wei had the accident because of an argument with Su Fang, my mother-in-law trembled all over, staring at her in disbelief. Is what she said true? The evidence is irrefutable. I shoved the dashcam video in front of my mother-in-law, forcing her to watch it over and over until she lost control. Her mind snapped, and she rushed forward and slapped Su Fang. "You vixen, why did you have to kill my son?" That slap of hers sent the live broadcast program into a frenzy. The relatives who were there for the drama finally got the spectacle they wanted and began to condemn the mother-in-law for failing to control her son, allowing the vixen to cause his death. The next day, mother-in-law encouraged son to cheat. Ended up with mistress causing son's death. After son's car accident, daughter-in-law not only refused to save him but also smashed the house. Follow-up. After encouraging son to cheat and mistress causing son's death, she was even invited to the funeral. Daughter-in-law smashed the house and refused to attend the funeral. This follow-up directly shocked netizens, with many saying, "I would have smashed it too. Why save such a scumbag? It would be more satisfying to just pull the plug and take a photo for keepsake." Others said that those who criticize the wife are probably mistresses themselves. Meanwhile, I have formally submitted all evidence to Su Fang, demanding that she return all the marital property that belonged to me and Yang Wei, because I repaired Yang Wei's phone, all the call records, WeChat records, and various online banking transaction records are clear and unambiguous. Su Fang lost the lawsuit and was ordered to return 320,000 yuan of our marital property. However, she had already spent all the money and had no means to repay it, just like in my previous life. I hired a group of local thugs to press for the debt every day, armed with the court's judgment notice. Ever since she found out that Su Fang was the one who caused Yang Wei's fatal car accident, her mother-in-law has been looking at Su Fang with utter disdain. However, because Su Fang is pregnant with Yang Wei's child, she hasn't made things difficult for her. She wants to hold her grandchild, so for the time being, she hasn't troubled her and has even reached a private agreement with Su Fang. They are just waiting for the child to be born, then hand the child over to her to raise, and let Su Fang go and marry someone else. The grandson is her only hope, so every time I went to ask for money, my stubborn mother-in-law blocked me, throwing tantrums and rolling on the ground. Even local thugs wouldn't dare to lay a hand on an old lady. Collecting the debt has become difficult, using my money to support your mistress and her child. What were you thinking, since Su Fang refuses to pay? I have no choice but to take extreme measures. I made 200 copies of the court summons, investigated Su Fang's hometown, and hired 10 people to go there making a scene, beating gongs, drums, and distributing the summons. Su Fang's hometown is in the countryside, and her parents are honest, hard-working farmers. People in the village care deeply about their reputation, so with all the drum beating and leaflet distribution, the entire village found out, too ashamed to even show their faces. The elderly couple rushed directly to the apartment Yang Wei had rented for Su Fang, brandishing kitchen knives. Su Fang was so terrified that she started having abdominal pain and bleeding. By the time she was taken to the hospital, the baby was already lost, and she couldn't even save her uterus. As soon as my mother-in-law saw that the only descendant she had been longing for was gone, she was so enraged that she grabbed the kitchen knife from Su Fang's parents and attacked me. I could have dodged it, but I didn't. The knife sliced deeply into my shoulder, staining it with blood, and I was rushed to the emergency room for treatment. For committing such a violent act openly in the hospital reported it to the police, and my mother-in-law was immediately arrested. He was eventually arrested for attempted murder and sentenced to 30 years in prison. A man nearly 60 years old, sentenced to 30 years. His retirement years will be spent in prison. Su Fang's parents scraped together money, borrowing from relatives far and wide, to repay the court-ordered compensation to me, then took Su Fang back to the countryside. After my mother-in-law was arrested, I sold everything of value in the house and took the money back home to be with my parents. In my previous life, they worried themselves sick for me. In this life, I will stay away from all scumbags and spend quality time with my parents, enjoying the happiness of family life. The end. That concludes the first story. Don't go away. The next story is even more exciting. I served the spiked juice to my childhood friend. He drank it without changing his expression. Then, his face flushed, and he uncontrollably tore open the buttons of his shirt. He lifted me by the waist and threw me onto the bed. I struggled desperately. "Shenyu, what are you trying to do? Isn't this what you wanted? Don't you know what you put in it?" As that handsome face drew closer and closer to me, I loudly defended myself. Bro, I added chili powder for you, not aphrodisiac." 1. Shenyu went too far. He reported to my dad that I was dating too early. Damn it. Which college student isn't allowed to date? Of course, it's the Zhao families. My reputation, Zhao Qing, has been completely ruined by Shenyu. Just after finishing a meal with my classmates, my dad called. On the other end of the phone, the middle-aged man, despite his age, cried and said, "My dear daughter, you absolutely must not fall in love." As I was speaking, there was a sound like a boiling kettle. Oh, it turned out my dad was crying even louder. I sighed helplessly. "Dad, I didn't tilde." My dad didn't believe me and continued sobbing, wiping his tears and snot. "Woo woo. Xiaoshan said that you've been getting very close with a male classmate. Hearing my dad mention Shinyu, I couldn't help but clench my fists. I knew it. When we ran into Shinyu during the meal, that look in his eyes definitely meant nothing good would come of it. My dad is such a crybaby. I'm a bit curious how my mom ever fell for him back in the day. Complaining aside, I still have to gently coax my crybaby dad. Dad, I'm not in a relationship. The crying still hadn't stopped, but it had quieted down a bit as he sobbed. Really, I'm sure, really, how could your precious daughter lie to you? After receiving my confirmation over there, the crying immediately stopped. He cleared his throat, sounding completely normal. That's good. Then, go ahead with your things. Dad is fine. If you run out of living expenses, I'll transfer some to you. My heart warmed as I listened to my dad's words. Although he occasionally acts unreasonably, he is still the one who loves and cares about me the most. Sure enough, the transfer notifications soon appeared on my phone, too. I recalled the source of all these troubles and gritted my teeth in frustration. That despicable Shinyu. Just you wait. Shinyu, knowing he had done something wrong, stayed out of sight. I didn't see him at school all the way until Friday. Every time he snitched, he felt guilty and avoided me for a few days. I didn't understand back then why Shinyu sometimes looked guilty when he glanced at me, until one day my dad accidentally let it slip. Now, whenever I think about those inexplicable times Shinyu snitched on me in high school, I get furious. Oh, you're something else, Shinyu. On Friday, after my last class, I asked my roommate to take my books back to the dorm. I went to block Shinyu at his classroom door. I remember he should be having advanced mathematics this period. In room 402 of Building 7, I sat waiting in the empty classroom next door, and when it was almost time for class to end, I got up and went to stand by the classroom door to block him. University classes rarely have teachers who drag on past the bell. As soon as the bell rang, the students in the classroom started coming out one after another. Shinyu's roommates all know me, and when they saw me, they turned back and teased Shinyu. Shinyu, your childhood friend is here to see you. Shinyu slowly walked out of the classroom, his steps calm and composed, unhurried. Seeing him like this made me want to pinch him. And I actually did it. I gave him a hard pinch. Shinyu cried out in pain. Zhao Qing, are you trying to kill me? I only let go when I saw his pained expression change, and snorted. I want to eat hot pot, I commanded him with righteous indignation. Where to eat? He asked patiently. My eyes rolled around. Go to your apartment. And you cook for me, I ordered imperiously. It's easier to make a move at his apartment. Shinyu spoke gently and amiably. All right, my dear, we're out of groceries at home. How about you come with me to buy some? Fine. Given how respectfully he was behaving, I decided to be merciful and agreed. 3. After buying the groceries, I went back to Shinyu's apartment with him. Of course, I just sat on the sofa waiting to eat, leaving everything else to Shinyu. While Shinyu was washing the vegetables, I secretly took out that packet from my pocket, pour a glass of juice, then add the medicine into it, use a straw to stir it, and when it looks well mixed, I picked up the cup and brought it to Shinyu's lips. He drank all the juice without changing his expression. Watching his unchanged expression, I couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. What a legend. In an instant, Shinyu put down the vegetables in his hands and couldn't help but unbutton his shirt. His face was flushed, and there was sweat on his forehead. I watched his expression change faster and faster, and I was stunned. He picked me up by the waist, opened his door, and threw me onto the bed. I struggled desperately. Shinyu, what are you doing? Isn't this what you wanted? Don't you know what you put in it? As that handsome face drew closer and closer to me, I loudly defended myself. Bro, big brother, what I added was chili powder, not aphrodisiac. Shinyu's movements instantly froze as he buried his head in my shoulder. His voice sounded somewhat ethereal as he said, I don't believe it. If that's the case, why am I feeling so feverish all over right now? I patted him and said, of course you're feeling hot from the chili powder. If you're hot, go drink some water quickly. For Shinyu's frustrated voice came through. Oh, then why did you add chili powder to my juice? I found it somewhat amusing. You don't know. I pushed him, urging him to get off me. He pretended to be dead, not moving at all. So I had no choice but to sigh and stare at the ceiling. You really don't know, no idea. Wasn't it you who told my dad? I said grumpily. Shunyu froze and then played dead again. Speak, what are you talking about? His voice was still muffled. Aren't you too old to be so childish? Tattling to my dad, Shunyu didn't answer my question, instead asking, do you like him? Who do I like? I didn't even know about this. The person you had a meal with. Shunyu was a bit angry. It was because of that person that Zhaoqing stopped having meals with him. That's why he resorted to such a desperate measure. He had no other choice and could only use the most despicable method, snitching. So that's how it was. Actually, he came to me because, of course, I won't say, oh tilde you mean him. I drew out my tone, teasing Shunyu. Suddenly, I felt a damp sensation on my shoulder. Could it be? I quickly pushed Shunyu away. I said in disbelief, Shunyu, you're crying. Shunyu's eyes were red at the corners, with a teardrop still hanging on his face. Upon hearing my words, he hurriedly covered his head with the blanket. A nasal voice came from under the blanket. No, I'm not. I pulled back the quilt and secretly glanced at him. Really? Nothing, he said angrily. I reached out and touched the corner of his eye. It was damp. Liar, hurry up and get out of bed. Aren't you thirsty after drinking all that spicy water just now? Don't worry about me. Don't you like him? Why are you still caring about me? Shunyu's voice was muffled. 5, I sighed softly. When did Shunyu become as tearful as my dad, who said I like him? Shunyu pulled the blanket away and sat up abruptly, retorting, you don't even eat with me anymore. How can you say you don't like him? He turned his head away and refused to look at me. Just because I eat with him means I like him. Then I often eat with you too. Does that mean I like you? I curled my lips into a slight smile. Hearing this, Shunyu's eyes grew even redder at the corners, muttering softly, you wouldn't like me. What? I didn't catch it. He raised his voice a little. You wouldn't like me. I froze. What makes you think that? Shunyu became even angrier. Anyway, I just know. I started to doubt myself because of what he said. Did my memory get messed up? How come I don't know that I don't like Shunyu? Thinking about that incident, Shunyu couldn't hold back his tears again. He looked utterly broken, making people want to bully him fiercely. Seeing the redness at the corner of his eyes and his slightly disheveled hair, I silently felt helpless. The Shunyu from before wasn't this prone to crying. 6. Shunyu and I grew up together, but it wasn't exactly the typical childhood friendship. He moved next door to us when he was 9 years old. The Shunyu back then was still different from the one now. At such a young age, he pretended to be mature. While my friends and I were having a great time playing, he remained unnoticed on the sidelines, completely out of place with us. One day, while we were playing house, Shunyu sat quietly nearby, doing his homework. When I saw him, I frowned slightly. Remembering what the teacher had said about not isolating good friends, after thinking for a while, I came up with a good idea. Someone, go and snatch me a handsome groom for the stronghold. I waved my hand grandly and spoke with boldness. My underlings looked around in confusion, remembering that the script hadn't included this line. They weren't sure how to respond. I watched these bewildered underlings and desperately gestured toward Shunyu's direction with my eyes. Finally, someone caught on and understood what I meant. The boss wants a husband to keep in the stronghold, so we should snatch the most handsome one for her. Only someone like that is worthy of our boss. The other underlings chimed in agreement. They immediately caught on, and someone pointed a finger in Shunyu's direction. Him, only he is worthy of our brilliant and mighty boss. Then a group of people hurriedly carried Shunyu, who was doing his homework, away. Shunyu looked completely bewildered. I nodded with satisfaction. Blending in like this so I wouldn't be isolated. Take him to my place. Tonight, this king is going to consummate the marriage, I said, grinning from ear to ear. The little brothers cheered and jumped for joy, and a large group of them carried Shunyu to my house in a grand procession. When they took him away, they didn't forget to pack his homework along. Fortunately, the parents hadn't gotten off work yet, so we didn't run into many acquaintances. Shunyu was carried to my house in a state of utter despair, or more precisely, onto my bed. 7. Everyone, step back. This king is going to consummate the marriage. The friend playing the role of the underling still looked intrigued, immersed in the joy of the wedding festivities and reluctant to leave. Finally, under the authority of this king, They left. Looking back with every step they took, the underling's part in the play has come to an end. My part has just begun. The mountain bandit king forcibly marries the village's young master. I took out one of my pink silk scarves from my wardrobe, tied his wrists together, and finally made a bow. Shun Yu wore an expression of helplessness. Zhao Qing, when will this end? I looked at him with a hint of dissatisfaction. Don't address me by my name directly. Please call me the Mountain King now. Shun Yu glanced at the ceiling and sighed helplessly. Mountain King, when can this end? I chuckled with a sly grin. My beauty, of course it will only end when I'm in a good mood. I was lying to him. It's not often that I get to mess with Shun Yu like this. And I won't let him leave until I've had my fill of fun. I looked him up and down, feeling like something was missing. I remember now. I dashed to the wardrobe, rummaged through it, scattering clothes everywhere, and spotted that red short-sleeved shirt, picked it up. It's you. I dashed back to the bed again and covered Shun Yu's head with the red short sleeve. Before covering him, I saw an even more lifeless expression in Shun Yu's eyes. I grinned from ear to ear, beaming with joy. Then I took out the children's lipstick my mom bought me and applied it all around my lips. Looking at the crookedly applied lipstick in the mirror, I frowned and was about to wipe it off and reapply. Shun Yu spoke up. Zhao Qing, are you not ready yet? My mountain stronghold husband is so eager, of course I'll satisfy him. Casually tossing the lipstick aside, rushing to the bedside. 8. I rubbed my hands together. Putting on the same act as those dramas about forcibly taking common women that I usually watch. Here I come, my little beauty. I lifted the veil with a lecherous smile on my face. I'm here to satisfy you now. Shun Yu froze for a moment when he saw my smeared lipstick, then burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Zhao Qing, look at you. You're like a little painted cat. I have never seen Shun Yu laugh so happily before, but the moment I thought he was laughing at me, I became unhappy. I looked at Shun Yu with a hint of dissatisfaction, pouting my lips. Don't laugh at me, the great king. He still couldn't hold back and continued to laugh. I was so angry that I gave him a big kiss on the cheek. Ha ha ha, that'll teach you to laugh. A big lipstick mark was left on his face. I looked at the masterpiece I had left on his face and nodded with satisfaction. That'll teach you to laugh. I then dabbed a bit more on his forehead, right cheek and chin, filling in any blank spots. After kissing him, it was my turn to laugh. Ha ha ha. Shun Yu, you're a little painted cat now too. Shun Yu was so angry his ears turned red, and he blurted out, You, Zhao Qing. You're impossible. I shook my head proudly. I was just too good. Zhao Qing, you can't do this. I didn't care at all. Why not? He was just about to say something when, with a loud bang, my door was flung open. 9. Zhao Qing, my mother's roar made me jump. I hid behind Shun Yu. Seeing this, my mom got even angrier. Only then did I notice my dad behind my mom, as well as Shun's dad and mom. In Mrs. Zhao's eyes, Shun Yu was now a poor little thing who had been forcibly kissed by her daughter. The corners of his eyes were a bit red, though it was from my kisses just now. But in Mother Zhao's eyes, he was a victim oppressed by her own daughter. Shun Yu's face was covered with traces of my misdeeds, not to mention his hands were still tied with a silk scarf, presenting the perfect image of a pitiful victim. Mother Zhao struggled to contain her emotions, her anger rising. Zhao Qing, if I don't beat you so badly today that you take my surname, then I'm not your mother. I hid behind Shun Yu and peeked out my head, but when I saw my mom's furious expression, I timidly pulled it back in. Actually, I wanted to tell my mom that I already have her surname, but seeing the look on her face, I didn't dare say a word. My mom wanted to step forward and untie the ribbon from Shun Yu's wrist before dealing with me, but she was pulled back by Shun Yu's smiling mother from behind. My mother looked at Shun's mother with an apologetic expression on her face. I'm really sorry, Hien. My daughter is just too mischievous. As my mother spoke, she glared at me, already thinking about giving me a good scolding once everyone had left. Shun's mother happened to return just after finishing taking photos, still holding the camera in her hand. Her voice was very gentle, and she didn't seem angry at all. She picked up the camera and started snapping pictures of me and Shun Yu. This is actually quite nice. Shun Yu has always been too mature for his age since he was little, Sometimes even when I try to joke with him, he doesn't react. It's rare to see him like this, so I should thank your daughter." As she spoke, Mrs. Shen never stopped taking photos with her camera. At this point, Shen Yu untied the ribbon in his hand himself, walked up to Mrs. Shen, and said with a helpless expression, "Mom, stop taking pictures." Mrs. Shen didn't listen, a smile curling at the corners of her lips as she pressed the shutter again. She knew very well that if Shen Yu really didn't want to, he would have broken free long ago. She wondered who he took after, acting like this. Shen's mother secretly pinched the man beside her, who felt it was an undeserved misfortune. With a look, he signaled to his wife, "It's really not my fault. The genes are strong, and there's nothing I can do about it." After taking a photo of Shen Yu, she waved to me and said, "Xiao Qing, come over quickly too." I looked at my mom, then at Aunt Zhao, and didn't dare to move, completely frozen in place. 10. My mother gave me a sidelong glance, saying she'd deal with me later. "Come here quickly." Oh, I ran over with quick, light steps. Aunt Shen spoke gently. "Come, Xiao Qing, stand with a U for a keepsake." So on that day, Shen Yu and I took several meaningful photos. Of course, after Aunt Shen and the others left, I got a taste of bamboo shoot stir-fry. A spanking. My mom gave me a one-sided lecture, and my dad, unable to stop her, silently shed tears. From that day on, the relationship between Shen Yu and me grew better and better, and we became inseparable. It was good until high school, but then it wasn't as good anymore. Because of Shen Yu, he started tattling on me. By the time I reached high school, all my close friends had gone their separate ways and attended different high schools. I glanced at Shen Yu, who had been following me all along, and felt immensely relieved. As long as my mountain stronghold husband was still here, everything was fine. High school students grow up so fast, and Shen Yu has become even more outstanding. He attracted more and more attention, and I tried hard to suppress the displeasure in my heart, only to realize belatedly that I truly wanted him to be my mountain stronghold husband. That is to say, I have feelings for him. I like him very much. When I first entered high school, I already knew how I felt about Shen Yu. I treat him better than before, so when Shen Yu said I would never like him, I was really confused and had no clue. I wiped the tears from the corner of Shen Yu's eyes with my fingertip and asked softly, "When did I ever say I didn't like you?" 11. Shen Yu still wouldn't look at me, and the redness at the corner of his eyes clearly showed his vulnerability at this moment. After a long while, he finally spoke. First year of high school, on the day of the sports meet, Shen Yu tilted his head back at a 45-degree angle, holding back the tears in his eyes. Hearing Shen Yu say this, I remember this day vividly, because I want to confess my feelings secretly. I also want to keep up with the trend for once, just like in novels, confessing in an unintentional way. Since I'm somewhat unsure about Shen Yu's thoughts, I'm also afraid that after confessing, we might not even be able to remain friends. I came up with a confession plan that allows me to advance or retreat as needed. At the end of the sports meet, I'll create an absolutely unintentional moment, accidentally saying I like Shen Yu in the classroom. If his expression changes when he hears it, I'll treat it as a joke and quietly return to the position of a friend. After repeatedly confirming that no one would come to the classroom, I asked someone to call Shen Yu back. Before he arrived, I rehearsed countless times. "Shen Yu, I like you. Do you like me? Shen Yu, I like you. Do you like me?" After talking for so long, I ended up misspeaking. "Shen Yu doesn't like me. I don't like Shen Yu. I got it wrong. I like Shen Yu." Shen Yu, standing outside the door without hearing the full conversation, felt as if the sky had fallen. His mind was filled with the thought that she didn't like him at all, and he couldn't even make out what was said afterward. He even forgot to ask Zhao Qing what she had come to see him for. Alone and desolate, he stood in the corridor, bearing the pain all by himself. He didn't dare to go too far. Though he was heartbroken, he was afraid that Zhao Qing wouldn't be able to find him if she came looking. So he stood there silently, enduring the cold wind for a long time, finding everything around him irritating. Damn those roses. Why do they bloom so brilliantly? The flower of his love withered before it even had a chance to blossom, he thought to himself mockingly. At least he hadn't confessed his feelings yet. If he had been rejected, it would have only brought him humiliation. Shinyu thought for a long time and still felt that he could only hang himself on Zhao Qing's tree in the future. He really couldn't accept the idea of Zhao Qing being with someone else. Shinyu secretly swore that from today on, he would be Nyo Gulu times Shinyu, and he would completely turn to the dark side. 12. I practiced until my mouth was parched in the classroom. But Shinyu still hadn't arrived. I was a bit puzzled. Had something happened to Shinyu? As I stepped out of the classroom, I saw Shinyu standing by the railing of the neighboring class, looking up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. The thought of confessing my feelings shrank back the moment I saw him. I was too afraid. I was no longer the Zhao Qing from my childhood, who could confidently snatch Shinyu away to be my mountain stronghold husband. Sometimes I even envy the person I used to be, carefree and without any reservations. Instead of being like now, the affection weighing on my heart is completely impossible to speak out, afraid that he doesn't like me, afraid that after confessing, we can't even be friends. Liking someone is being cautious. I hesitated. Shinyu, I called out to stop him, wanting to ask why he didn't come to the classroom. I wonder if he noticed my flawless plan. I was too embarrassed to ask directly, so I could only hint at it. Did you just come to the classroom? My heart was in my throat, afraid that he had heard, yet also afraid that he hadn't. Waiting for his verdict, Shinyu's eyes flickered with a hint of disappointment, taking in every expression on my face. What? Afraid that if you say you don't like him later, it might be secretly overheard? Shinyu shook his head. I let out a long sigh. Whatever, this flawless way of confessing just isn't for me. Let's just take it slow and see what happens. Who knew this slow process would last all the way until college? 13. It's because of this. That's why you think I don't like you. I stared at Shinyu in disbelief. He argued, I heard you say with your own words that you don't like me. And yet, when he heard that Zhao Qing was waiting for him in the classroom, he ran so fast. My face was written all over with the word ridiculous, and I asked weakly, you didn't just hear that one sentence, did you? Shinyu felt a bit guilty, then proudly raised his head again. Whether I heard it all or not isn't important. Hearing the most crucial part is enough. At this point, his face was once again filled with endless sorrow and disappointment. Oh, so that means you didn't actually hear me say I like you? I murmured quietly. Shinyu's eyes lit up upon hearing this, and he finally turned his face to me, facing me directly. Say it again. His eyes were full of anticipation. I don't want to say it again. It's absurd, utterly absurd. I never thought something like a misunderstanding in a novel would happen to me. If you didn't hear it, forget it. He hurried over, grabbed my hand and shook it unsteadily. No, I heard it. You said you like me. After Shinyu finished speaking, he started giggling foolishly. Could this be the reason you secretly reported to my dad? I said in a faint tone, full of resentment. Shinyu froze, looking at me cautiously. Not daring to move a muscle, I could tell from his expression that I had guessed correctly. I placed my hand on his shoulder and whispered in his ear, don't tell me that after this day, you turned to the dark side and started reporting to my dad. Shinyu stiffened even more, trembling with fear. He simply couldn't bear the terrifying atmosphere any longer and cried out, I was wrong. He immediately ran to the study, swiftly pulled out the keyboard, brought it back to this room, placed it on the floor, and decisively knelt down. I was really wrong. Watching him drop to his knees so decisively, I raised an eyebrow. His will to survive was quite strong. 14. Then tell me, what did you do wrong? Shinyu kept his head down, not daring to look me in the eye, and spoke quietly. I shouldn't have volunteered to help him watch when my uncle said to be careful about the male classmates around you at school. Shinyu glanced at me secretly, and seeing that my expression hadn't changed, he continued to tentatively speak. In our first year of high school, someone gave you a love letter. I was the one who told your uncle about it. I remember this incident. It was around this time that my dad started getting all weepy whenever there was even a hint of me having a puppy love. I can't calm him down once he starts crying, and my mom won't help me either, telling me to handle it myself. Go on, someone sent you gifts to pursue you. And I secretly told uncle about it too. I found it somewhat amusing to watch Shinyu carefully observe my expression as he spoke. Now he's afraid of making me angry. Where was this concern earlier? If it weren't for my dad accidentally letting it slip once, I wouldn't have known that Shinyu was behind it. From then on, I had already kept my distance from the boys in the class, and then I distanced myself even further from them. I was afraid of going home and seeing my dad, a tough man, shedding tears. Then it occurred to me that something wasn't quite right. How did my dad always know everything that happened at school so well, until one time when he was drunk, I secretly coaxed him, "Dad, how are you so brilliant and mighty that you always know what's going on at school?" Speaking of this, my father said proudly, "Your dad can predict the future." Daddy Tilda, I cooed, whose dad is as dashing, handsome, and charming as can be. Of course, it's my super handsome, invincible dad in the universe. Just tell me, please. My dad, feeling quite pleased by my flattery, blurted out, "It's none other than Shin." By the time my dad realized what he had said, it was already too late to take it back, and he looked rather embarrassed. "Daughter, I didn't say anything." I glanced at him and stopped talking. I looked at the man kneeling straight in front of me and had to admit that a man with good looks is attractive no matter what he does. Even kneeling like this makes people want to bully him. If my dad knew that despite all his efforts to guard against others, he failed to guard against those close to him, I can't help but find it somewhat amusing. I really don't understand why my dad trusts Shinyu so much. TSK. The rabbit is about to nibble the grass right by its own burrow. 15. Seeing Shinyu's expression as pitiful as a young bride's, and having knelt for so long, my anger finally subsided, and I said, "All right. You can get up now." Shinyu didn't move, secretly observing my expression. Only after confirming I wasn't really angry did he slowly stand up. After getting up, he quietly rubbed his knees. "Since you like me and I like you too, can we be together?" Shinyu looked at me with eager, pleading eyes. Waiting for my response, I shot him an annoyed glare. Fine, I'm not the type to procrastinate. When two people are in love, I naturally want to be with the person I like sooner rather than later. I have my own selfish reasons too. Shinyu's mood instantly lifted, and the pitiful, broken puppy look from earlier was completely gone. If he had a tail, it would definitely be wagging non-stop right now. From now on, if anyone tries to pursue me, I can just say I have a girlfriend to turn them down. I narrowed my eyes and scrutinized Shinyu. "Are you still hiding something from me?" Shinyu's hand trembled slightly, and he put on a look of grim determination. "Lately, there's a girl who's been pursuing me." I laughed. "Well, isn't that something? He reports on me when I have a meal with someone else, but here he is, getting pursued by someone himself." Shinyu repeatedly assured me that he had never interacted with her, and only then did I reluctantly forgive him. Soon, I met the girl Shinyu mentioned who was pursuing him. 16. On Wednesday at noon after school, Shinyu waited for me at the door of my classroom. He said he wanted to have every meal with me from then on. He would never give anyone a chance, whether it was for me or for him. I found a corner in the cafeteria to sit down, while Shinyu went to buy the food. All I had to do was wait for him. Before long, Shinyu returned with 2 meals. He sat beside me, meticulously wiped the chopsticks, and then handed them to me. A surprised voice called out, "Senior." I looked up and saw a sweet-looking girl gazing at Shinyu with delight in her eyes. Shinyu quickly pressed closer to me and firmly rejected her. "I have a girlfriend." She looked at us in disbelief, her eyes showing a hint of hurt, and finally accepted the fact that Shinyu had a girlfriend. "All right." She seemed reluctant to leave but eventually walked away. I glanced at Shinyu and said, "It's all because of that face of yours." He raised his hand with a sincere heart, his long, fair fingers forming a vow. "I've only ever liked you since I was a child. Have you forgotten? I'm still your husband in your stronghold." My brow twitched, but I said nothing. He grew a bit anxious. "There's proof at home. Photos my mom took." Seeing him like this, I couldn't resist giving him a kiss on the cheek. He froze in surprise. I chuckled softly. "Haha, Shinyu, you're so silly." He looked at me with eager eyes. "One more kiss. Let's eat, or we won't be able to later." Oh, 17. I didn't expect there would be a follow-up to this classmates matter. Shinyu's roommates treated everyone to karaoke at a KTV. And he brought me along. After I arrived, I realized that those who had girlfriends were in long-distance relationships and couldn't make it. The others were either single and unattached. I stayed in the room for a while, then told Shun Yu I needed to go to the restroom. He wanted to go with me, but I stopped him. I didn't expect to run into an acquaintance just after leaving the restroom. The classmate who had been pursuing Shun Yu looked at me, her eyes lighting up. She had been wanting to find this senior anyway, and couldn't believe their luck in running into each other like this. She couldn't help but speak up. Senior, I think Shun Yu might not be a good person. I'm puzzled, she explained. Just now, I overheard him at the door of the room. His tone was so casual, just like a player. He said it in exactly that tone. As she spoke, the junior imitated Shun Yu's tone. Chasing after a girlfriend is as easy as pie, a piece of cake. My junior's expression was hard to describe. Her face was full of relief, but also a bit of disdain. He's clearly a player. I don't even know what I saw in him before. She then turned to me and said, Senior, I really hope you'll think it over carefully and not get deceived. Her eyes were filled with sympathy. I couldn't help but feel that this scene was strangely familiar. Don't tell me you only heard that one line. She nodded, her face full of confusion. Wasn't that one sentence enough? It clearly sounded like a player's line. I signaled for her to follow me to the room's door to listen to the conversation inside. 18. While chatting, everyone had turned off the music, so their noisy voices could be heard clearly from outside. Someone spoke up, Shun Yu is still the best. Relying on our dorm's secret to winning over a girl, he successfully got himself a girlfriend. With everyone's experience, I finally had an epiphany. Come on, today, Old Wang, will give you singles a lesson. Towards your girlfriend, your attitude must be sincere. If you're wrong, just admit it. Reject male chauvinism. If you need to kneel on a keyboard, kneel on a keyboard. If you need to kneel on a durian, kneel on a durian. The others laughed. Looks like Brother Wang has plenty of experience. Come on, let Shun Yu, who's successfully in a relationship, share some advice. Get lost, he joked, but he still said, my girlfriend and I grew up together, childhood sweethearts, so it's different from you guys. But I completely agree with the idea of admitting mistakes and apologizing. I looked at my junior who was utterly confused and said, Junior, next time, try to get the full story. My junior then relaxed and said, Senior. To be honest, I'm quite shallow. I just like his looks. Of course, I have morals. Since he's in a relationship, I won't like him anymore. I wish you both happiness. After saying that, she waved and walked away. I watched her figure and smiled, thinking she's quite cute, this junior. After it was over, Shun Yu and I returned to his apartment. All the way back, he couldn't resist sticking close to me. 19. His eyes lit up slightly. Baby, I want to kiss you, huh? Then he carried me on his back and slowly made his way home. It wasn't until we were almost at the apartment building that he finally spoke slowly. It wouldn't be bad if we could keep walking like this forever. Then you have to carry me on your back the whole way. I feel like I'll never put you down. Shun Yu tilde, a faint voice came from the side, startling us. Fortunately, Shun Yu held me tightly while carrying me on his back, or else I would have fallen. I looked at the tall figure standing beside us. It was none other than my dear old father. My dear old father's gaze at Shun Yu was filled with heartache, as if saying, I trusted you so much, how could you betray that trust? I got off Shun Yu's back. Dad, what brings you here? If I hadn't come, how would I know a pig has been messing with my cabbage? I've been guarding against everything. But it's hard to guard against a thief within. Shun Yu was originally feeling a bit guilty, but when he heard my dad say it's hard to guard against a thief in the family, his eyes lit up, and he spoke loudly. Dad, this really shows they already see him as one of their own. You, Shun Yu, we haven't even agreed yet. And you're already calling him Dad. As he said this, my dad couldn't hold back his tears. The thought of his daughter getting married and leaving him in the future made him sad. Hold it in. My mom's voice came through. Oh, my dad held back his tears. Uncle Shun and Aunt Shun also came over. Aunt Shun's eyes couldn't hide her joy as she looked at me. Our group went upstairs, and my mom and Aunt Shun were talking about me and Shun Yu. Before long, they were already discussing our wedding. My dad was silently shedding tears on the side. While they weren't paying attention, We sneaked off to the room. It seems my mom is quite satisfied with you, I said, giving Shunyu's hand a gentle squeeze. Then can we get married right after graduation? Shunyu was delighted. That depends on your performance, I replied with a smile, my eyes curving into crescents. Got it. I will definitely perform well and strive to get certified as soon as possible. A soft voice reached my ears, landing gently on my heart. Zhao Qing, I really like you so much. I love you. I turned my head to look at his delicate features, and the corners of my mouth couldn't help but curve upward. I like you super much too. All the loved ones are by my side. The years are peaceful and beautiful. It's truly wonderful. 20 Shunyu extra story. When I was 9 years old, I moved with my parents. I met a new neighbor. Her name is Zhao Qing, changing my environment. I originally wanted to be a mature and steady person, but she ruined it all. She was afraid I would be isolated, so she took me along to Playhouse. I was actually a bit helpless. I still preferred doing homework, but I never expected her to be so fierce. She wanted me to be her mountain stronghold husband. Although I felt a bit embarrassed, I still didn't refuse. I laughed at her for smearing her lipstick, but she wouldn't let me laugh and actually pressed over to kiss me. I was stunned. I had never seen a girl like this before. I was just about to say that since she kissed me, she had to take responsibility, but then my parents and her parents all came back. For a moment, I was at a loss for words, and my mom immediately picked up the camera and started snapping away. Those photos are still very well preserved to this day. At our wedding, both sets of parents unanimously agreed to display them on the big screen. And we even took a larger version of our marriage certificate, depicting the female bandit chief capturing her groom. As for that dark period during high school when I went through my rebellious phase, well, let's just not bring that up for now. Later I asked my wife why she didn't come after me when she found out in high school that I was the one who reported her. She glanced at me lightly and said, of course, it was because she really liked me. If it were someone else, just see if she would tolerate it. Hey, I'm happy again. I knew she loved me. Even after years of marriage, I still felt uneasy about her having dinner with a certain male classmate. It wasn't until one night, when I treated my wife especially well, that she reluctantly told me that classmate was trying to pursue her roommate and had asked for her help, requesting her to keep it a secret. My mood instantly improved. Enough said. I'm going to hug my wife and sleep now. Good night.